Right now, at this exact moment while you're reading these words, there's a setting on your phone, your laptop, or your home router that is acting as an open door for someone you have never met. You did not turn it on intentionally. You probably do not even know it is on. But it is broadcasting your information, your location, your network history, and in some cases, your passwords, to anyone within range who knows how to listen. This is not a theory. This is not a warning about the future. This is happening right now, today, in 2026, and most people will find out the hard way. Here is where the world actually stands right now. An estimated 600 million cyber attacks happen worldwide every single day. Let that number breathe for a second. 600 million. That is not 600 million attempts over a year. That is not 600 million suspicious emails sent over a decade. That is every single day. While you were sleeping last night, while you were making coffee this morning, while you were sitting in traffic or scrolling through your phone at lunch, 600 million attacks were being launched against devices exactly like the one you're holding right now. And here's the part that nobody is talking about loudly enough. Most of those attacks did not require sophisticated tools. Most of them did not require state-sponsored hacking groups or rooms full of elite programmers. Most of them succeeded because of a setting, a switch, a tiny configuration option buried inside your phone's menu that you have never touched because nobody ever told you to. Think about what that means for a moment. The assumption most people carry is that getting hacked requires a hacker to specifically target you, that you would have to be important enough, wealthy enough, connected enough to be worth someone's time. That is the assumption that is getting people destroyed in 2026. Because the reality of modern cybercrime is that attackers are not choosing their victims the way a predator chooses prey. They are casting nets, automated, AI-powered, constantly scanning nets that find vulnerabilities the way water finds cracks. They do not need to know your name. They do not need your address. All they need is a signal, and right now, there's a very good chance your device is sending one. AI has fundamentally changed how attacks are launched. Microsoft's 2025 Digital Defense Report found that AI now cuts the time from first access to full breach down to under 4 hours. Read that again, 4 hours. That means from the moment an attacker finds a way into your device or your network, they can have complete access to your data, your accounts, and your identity in less time than it takes to watch 2 movies. This is not a future threat. This is the operating reality of the digital world you live in today. And the terrifying part is that the entry point, the very first crack they need to get started, is almost always something you left open yourself without realizing it. Let us start with the setting that security researchers have been screaming about for years and that the average person still has not addressed. Bluetooth. Right now, if you're in a coffee shop, an airport, a shopping mall, a gym, or sitting on public transport and your Bluetooth is switched on, you are visible. Hackers use specialized software which automatically detects nearby devices equipped with Bluetooth. They can also see which networks your device has previously connected to. Because your phone treats these networks as trusted, it will connect to them automatically in the future. If cybercriminals can replicate a trusted network, they can trick your device into connecting to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth devices that they control. Once that connection is made, the conversation changes entirely. They can push malware to your device. They can intercept your messages. They can sit silently inside your phone and watch everything you do in real time. But here's where it gets worse. Automatic Bluetooth connectivity leaves your phone vulnerable to what security researchers call blue-bugging attacks. Hackers within just 30 feet can inject malware when your phone auto-connects to nearby devices. Security researchers have documented numerous cases of blue-bugging attacks through unsecured Bluetooth connections. Most users keep Bluetooth enabled continuously, creating persistent vulnerability windows. 30 feet. That is the distance from your seat to the counter at your favorite cafe. That is the gap between your office chair and the door to your building's corridor. That is how close someone needs to be to potentially own your device while you sit there completely unaware, sipping your drink and going about your day. And this is where everything changes in how you need to think about this threat. Because Bluetooth hacking is not a single technique. It has evolved into a family of attack methods, each more invasive than the last. There's bluejacking, which is the entry-level version, where an attacker sends unsolicited messages to your device. Annoying, but not catastrophic. Then there is blue snarfing, where the attacker gains access to your device's stored data, your contacts, your calendar, your photos, your saved files. Without touching your phone, without you doing anything at all, they copy it. And then there is blue bugging, which is the one that should genuinely alarm you. If a hacker uses blue bugging, they have received full access to your cell phone. They could intercept and redirect phone calls, access bank details, send or receive files, or simply watch what you're doing in real time. This is not partial access. This is not a peek at your data. This is someone sitting in the driver's seat of your entire digital life while you remain completely unaware in the passenger seat. Now shift your attention to the second setting almost everyone has left on without thinking. Auto-connect Wi-Fi. Your phone, right now, is almost certainly set to automatically reconnect to any Wi-Fi network whose name matches one you have connected to before. Your home network, the coffee shop you visited 6 months ago, the hotel you stayed at during your last trip. The gym's Wi-Fi, your phone remembers all of them, and here's the attack that exploits exactly that behavior. Watch out for imposter public Wi-Fi hotspots. If more than one hotspot seems to belong to an establishment, check with staff to avoid connecting to an imposter. Adjust your phone settings so it does not automatically connect to nearby Wi-Fi networks that are not on your short list of trusted networks. Attackers set up rogue hotspots with names that match networks your phone already trusts, and your device connects to them automatically, silently, and instantly. The moment that connection is made, every piece of unencrypted data moving through your phone passes directly through their hands. Think about what travels through your phone on a typical day. Your banking app refreshing in the background, your email client pulling new messages, your password manager syncing, your cloud storage uploading photos. None of that feels dangerous because none of it requires your attention. It all happens invisibly, automatically in the background. But on a rogue network, every single one of those automatic background processes is being read by someone else. And the truly maddening part is that you never connected to their hotspot on purpose. Your phone did it for you in a fraction of a second while you were looking at something else entirely. But the danger does not stop at the door to your house. Inside your home, there is another layer of exposure that most people have never seriously examined. Your home router, the device that every phone, laptop, smart TV, baby monitor, doorbell camera, and voice assistant in your house connects through. Most wireless routers come with preset passwords for administering a device's settings. Hackers may be familiar with these default passwords, so it is important to change the router device's password when you install it. The statistics here are staggering. Security audits conducted across residential networks consistently find that a significant portion of home routers are still running on their factory default credentials. The username is admin, the password is admin, or password, or 1234, and that information is publicly documented in the user manuals that manufacturers post online. Anyone can look it up in 30 seconds. And this is where something important needs to be understood about how attackers actually work in 2026. Ransomware as a service platforms have changed everything. Now, even low-skilled criminals can rent sophisticated attack tools from the dark web. These tools come with technical support, making them even more dangerous. The person trying to get into your network does not need to be a genius. They do not need years of experience. They can rent the tools, follow a tutorial, and start scanning for vulnerable routers in your neighborhood in an afternoon. This is not exaggeration. This is the commercialized, industrialized reality of cybercrime in 2026. It has been systematically lowered to a level where almost anyone with a grievance, a motive, or simply a desire for money can participate. Now here is the layer of this problem that the mainstream conversation almost never reaches. It is not just your phone and your router that carry these vulnerabilities. It is every app you have ever installed and left running in the background. Around 75% of apps request unnecessary location access. Location data collected by apps is regularly transmitted to advertisers and data brokers, creating detailed movement profiles. Apps often request and transmit location data even when this access is not necessary for their core functions. Consider what a detailed movement profile of your daily life actually means in the wrong hands. Your home address, because that is where your phone spends most nights. Your workplace, because that is where it spends most weekdays. Your gym, your doctor's office, your children's school, the places you visit regularly, and the times you visit them. All of that is being assembled, stored, and sold right now through apps you use daily, through permissions you granted without reading and then forgot about entirely. Credential theft increased by 160% in 2025, driven by AI-enhanced phishing campaigns. Over 7.5 million cyber incidents were recorded in 2025, up significantly from the prior year, and 91% of successful breaches started with phishing. But the phishing of 2026 is almost unrecognizable compared to the clumsy, obvious scam emails of 5 years ago. AI tools now write thousands of personalized phishing emails in minutes, using data scraped from LinkedIn and company websites. Traditional spam filters struggle to catch them. The email that arrives in your inbox today, the one that uses your actual name, references your actual employer, mentions a colleague you actually work with, and arrives from an address that looks almost identical to a legitimate one, was probably not written by a human. It was generated by an AI system that scraped your publicly available information and constructed a targeted lure specifically calibrated to make you click. And it is working. The numbers confirm it is working at a scale that should stop everyone reading this in their tracks. Here's a real-world example of what this looks like when it reaches its conclusion. Criminals now clone the voice of a CEO using just 30 seconds of audio. They call the finance team and request a wire transfer. Several UK companies each lost over $20 million this way in 2025. 20 million pounds per company. Not through breaking encryption, not through sophisticated malware, through a phone call, through a voice that sounded exactly like someone the victim trusted completely. This is the new frontier of social engineering, and it is being powered by the same AI tools that the rest of the world is using to write marketing copy and summarize documents. The same technology, repurposed for financial devastation. And the reason it works so consistently is that the target never suspected that what they were hearing was not real, because it sounded completely, perfectly, indistinguishably real. Now look at what happened to PayPal in 2025, because this case study reveals something that every individual needs to understand about how breaches actually unfold. PayPal confirmed a breach tied to its PayPal working capital loan application after a threat actor accessed PayPal systems starting July 1st, 2025. PayPal said access continued until December 12th, 2025, when the incident was detected. The exposure window ran through December 12th, 2025, and reporting confirmed that the PayPal working capital issue exposed names, emails, phone numbers, business addresses, social security numbers, and dates of birth. 5.5 months. For 5.5 months, attackers were inside one of the largest financial platforms on the planet, moving through systems, accessing records, and extracting data. And nobody noticed. Not for 5.5 months. If that does not reframe how you think about the idea of being digitally safe, nothing will. Because the lesson here is not just that PayPal was breached. The lesson is that breaches do not announce themselves. They sit, they wait, they move carefully. And by the time anyone notices something is wrong, the damage is already finished. NYC Health and Hospitals disclosed a breach affecting approximately 1.8 million people, with the intrusion window running from November 2025 through February 2026. Stolen data included medical records, social security numbers, banking data, fingerprints and palm prints, medical records, banking details, biometric data, fingerprints and palm prints that cannot be changed the way you change a password. Once that data is extracted, it does not disappear, it does not expire, it does not become less dangerous. It lives on the dark web, potentially forever, available to anyone willing to purchase it. And the people whose data was stolen may not even know for months or years exactly what consequences that will produce, because identity theft does not always announce itself at once. It builds, it accumulates. And by the time the effects become visible, reversing them is an enormous, exhausting ordeal. Resolving identity theft takes an average of 200 hours and often costs thousands of dollars. 200 hours. That is 5 full 40-hour working weeks of your life, spent trying to prove to banks, credit agencies, government institutions, and service providers that you are who you say you are, and that the person who used your identity without your permission was not you. 5 weeks of phone calls, paperwork, disputes, and waiting, during which your credit is damaged, your financial access is disrupted, and the psychological toll of feeling violated and helpless compounds with every passing day. All of that, potentially triggered by a Bluetooth setting you never changed, a Wi-Fi network your phone connected to automatically, or a router password you never updated after you took the device out of the box. The global average cost of a data breach has reached $445 million, according to the IBM 2025 Cost of a Data Breach report, with industries like healthcare, manufacturing, and public services absorbing record-breaking losses. That is the corporate number, the institutional price tag. But the individual cost, measured in time, stress, damaged credit, and drained accounts, does not have a clean dollar figure attached to it. And in many ways, it is worse, because a corporation can survive a $445 million breach. It can absorb the loss, hire a PR firm, issue a statement, and move on. This is also the moment to talk about something that the tech industry does not spend nearly enough time addressing: the supply chain attack. Because the settings on your personal device are only one piece of this. Instead of breaking into one company, attackers now target the software that many companies use. They push a corrupted update, and thousands of victims are infected at once. Your security is only as strong as the weakest vendor in your supply chain. This means that even if you do everything right, even if you change your router password, disable AutoConnect, turn off Bluetooth, update every application, use strong passwords, and activate two-factor authentication on every account, you can still be compromised through the software of a company you trust. A company whose update you downloaded in good faith, a company whose product you paid for and assumed was secure. That is what a supply chain attack means. Your vigilance is necessary but not sufficient, because the attack surface now extends far beyond your own settings and your own choices. A threat actor known as Mr. Raccoon allegedly breached Adobe through an Indian third-party firm contracted for support operations. The attacker delivered a remote access tool via phishing, pivoted to a manager's account, and reached the help desk environment, where a single agent could export all tickets in one request. The claimed scale of the breach was 13 million customer support tickets, 15,000 employee records, and all HackerOne bug bounty submissions, including unpublished vulnerability reports, 13 million tickets, in a single export query, one person, one phishing attack on one contractor. That is the chain of events, and it did not require bypassing Adobe's primary defenses directly. It required finding the weakest link in the extended network of people and systems connected to Adobe, and pulling on it until everything came loose. This is the architecture of modern cybercrime: patient, layered, and surgical. If annual cybercrime were a country, it would have the third largest gross domestic product worldwide, after the United States and China. The projected annual cost of global cybercrime is $13.82 trillion by 2028. $13 trillion. That number represents a criminal economy larger than Japan, Germany, and the United Kingdom combined. An entire shadow economy running in parallel with the legitimate global economy, powered by the vulnerabilities in devices that billions of people use every day, and the settings inside those devices that almost nobody has ever reviewed. The funding that flows through this economy enables further development of tools, further automation of attacks, further sophistication in social engineering, and further penetration of systems that were supposed to be secure. It is a self-reinforcing cycle. The more successful attacks become, the more resources flow into making attacks even more successful. Now comes the part that most conversations about cybersecurity skip entirely, because it requires confronting something uncomfortable: the fact that the biggest vulnerability in any security system is not the software. It is not the router. It is not the Bluetooth protocol. It is human behavior. Phishing and social engineering were the top concern among IT professionals surveyed. Roughly 1 in 4, 27%, rated opening or downloading obvious phishing scams as the worst habit of remote and hybrid workers. 44% of organizations experienced a phishing or spear phishing attack in the past 12 months, making it the second most common type of cybercrime tracked. This means that even in environments where IT professionals are managing security, where there are policies and training programs and monitoring tools, nearly half of all organizations were still successfully phished in a single year. Because the attacks are not clumsy anymore. They are crafted with the precision of a professional con artist, enhanced by AI that understands exactly what psychological triggers to deploy, exactly what language to use, and exactly what context to reference to make the target feel like the communication is legitimate. In 2026, deepfake video and voice technology is not only more realistic, but also more accessible. Using generative AI, attackers can create real-time impersonations that are virtually indistinguishable from genuine communication. This is the threat that keeps serious security professionals awake. Not the brute force attacks that firewalls can block, not the known malware strains that antivirus software can detect. The threat that keeps them awake is a world in which you cannot trust your own senses. A world in which a video call with your bank manager might be a perfectly rendered AI impersonation. A world in which a voice message from your CEO authorizing an urgent payment might be a 30-second voice clone assembled from audio scraped from a public earnings call. This is not a hypothetical scenario for a decade from now. This is occurring in 2026. And here is what makes the trajectory of all of this so deeply concerning when you look forward, even 12 to 18 months. One of the most significant shifts in 2026 is the emergence of agentic AI tools that automate reconnaissance, payload delivery, and privilege escalation, drastically reducing the reaction time of attackers. What that means in plain language is this: hackers are building AI systems that do the hacking for them. Systems that scan for vulnerabilities, identify the most promising targets, craft personalized attack messages, deliver payloads, and escalate access inside compromised systems, all without requiring a human operator to manage each step. The human attacker sets the objective. The AI executes the operation. And it does so faster, more consistently, and at a larger scale than any human team could manage. This is the direction the threat is moving in, and the defense side is scrambling to match that pace. The global cybersecurity workforce is currently short by 4 million people. 4 million. That is the gap between the number of cybersecurity professionals the world needs right now and the number currently available to fill those roles, which means that even as attacks become more automated, more sophisticated, and more relentless, the human capacity to detect, respond to, and contain those attacks is severely and chronically understaffed. This gap does not close quickly. Training a security analyst takes years. Building institutional knowledge inside an organization takes longer. And in the interim, that gap represents millions of organizations, millions of networks, and billions of individual users who are more exposed than the system is equipped to protect. So let us get specific. Let us talk about the exact things you need to do right now, today, not as abstract advice, but as the concrete actions that directly close the vulnerabilities this script has been describing. Open your phone's settings right now. Find Bluetooth. If it is on and you are not actively using a Bluetooth device at this moment, turn it off, not just for this moment. Change your habit. Bluetooth is a feature you should activate when you need it and deactivate when you do not. Disabling automatic Bluetooth connectivity reduces your attack surface by up to 94% for this specific category of attack. That is not a minor improvement. That is a near elimination of an entire class of risk, achieved by toggling one switch. Next, go into your Wi-Fi settings and find the list of saved networks. You will almost certainly find networks you do not recognize anymore, networks from hotels, airports, cafes, and venues you visited years ago. Delete them. Every saved network your phone does not regularly need to connect to should be removed. Because every one of those saved network names is a piece of information an attacker can use to set up a rogue hotspot that your device will connect to automatically. While you're there, turn off the option that allows your phone to automatically join open networks. That setting, enabled by default on most devices, is the mechanism that makes this class of attack possible in the first place. Now, go to your router. Access its settings by typing its IP address into a browser, usually 192.168.1.1 or 192.168.0.1. Find the administrator password and change it, not to something easy to remember, to something long, random, and unique. Then find the firmware update option and check whether your router is running the latest version of its operating system. Router manufacturers release security patches regularly, and most people never install them because the router sits in a corner, blinking quietly, and nobody thinks about it. But your router is the gateway through which everything in your digital life passes. It is the most critical single device in your home network and the one most consistently neglected. Go into your phone's application settings and audit the permissions you have granted to every app installed. Location access, microphone access, camera access, contact access. For each one, ask a simple question. Does this app actually need this permission to do what I use it for? A flashlight app that has access to your location does not need that access. A game that requests your contacts does not need that access. Set location permissions to while using the app, rather than always, for every application that does not genuinely need continuous location tracking. This alone significantly reduces the data being transmitted about your movements without your awareness. This takes 15 minutes. The protection it provides is ongoing and substantial. Enable two-factor authentication on every account that offers it. Your email, your banking apps, your social media, your cloud storage, your password manager. Two-factor authentication means that even if an attacker obtains your password through a phishing attack, a data breach, or brute force attempt, they still cannot access your account without the second factor that only you possess. It is the single most effective individual security measure available, and it is free, and yet the majority of users have never activated it on the majority of their accounts. The gap between what is available and what people actually use is one of the most consequential failures in the history of consumer technology security. And now zoom back out. Because all of these individual steps matter, but they exist within a larger landscape that is fundamentally shifting in ways that deserve your serious attention. The CVE database, which tracks known software vulnerabilities, now holds over 305,000 recorded vulnerabilities. Projections suggest over 30,000 new disclosures will be made in 2026 alone. 30,000 new vulnerabilities discovered in a single year. That is over 80 new weaknesses found every single day in the software that runs the world. Every one of those vulnerabilities is a potential entry point. Every one of them represents a window of time between when the weakness is discovered, when the manufacturer releases a patch, and when users actually install that patch, during which anyone who knows about the vulnerability can exploit it. Ransomware attacks in 2025 prioritize speed, disruption, and data extortion over stealth. A cyber attack on Jaguar Land Rover was estimated to have cost the British economy $1.9 billion, halting vehicle production for weeks and triggering widespread delays across JLR's supply chain. A single attack on a single company, $1.9 billion in economic damage, weeks of production halted. Dealers unable to register new vehicles during one of the busiest sales periods of the year. This is what a successful cyber attack looks like at scale. This is the real-world consequence of a vulnerability being exploited. And those consequences ripple outward in ways that affect people far removed from the original breach. The workers who were sent home, the dealers who lost commission, the customers who could not receive their vehicles, the supply chain partners whose schedules collapsed. One attack, cascading damage across an entire sector of the economy. The average ransom payment in 2025 reached $2.73 million, a record high. Ransomware is now run like professional companies with customer support teams, payment portals, and even satisfaction guarantees. For ransomware, take a moment to appreciate how deeply organized and professionalized this criminal ecosystem has become. These are not chaotic, opportunistic criminals anymore. These are structured criminal enterprises with operational divisions, technical support departments, business development functions, and affiliate programs. They have invested in infrastructure. They have built brands. They compete with each other for market share. And the product they are selling is access to your data, your systems, and your life, held hostage until you pay. This is not chaos. This is strategy. This is a deliberate, calculated, economically rational criminal industry that is identified as structural vulnerability in the way modern society manages digital security, which is that almost nobody takes it seriously until it is already too late. And the industry has built itself around that predictable human failing. Every default setting left unchanged, every password left as admin, every Bluetooth left broadcasting, every permission granted without thought, every update skipped because it was inconvenient, every saved network never deleted. All of it is fuel for an industry that generates trillions of dollars by finding exactly those gaps and walking through them. The question that deserves to sit with you after everything you have just absorbed is not whether this threat is real. The data has settled that question conclusively. The question is not whether attackers have the tools to reach you. They demonstrably do. The question is not even whether any individual attack will succeed. Some will. The question is whether the gap between what you know and what you do about it will remain wide enough for someone to walk through. Because every statistic in this script, every breach, every stolen record, every compromised device, every billion-dollar ransom payment, every destroyed company and devastated individual represents someone who thought the gap between them and this threat was wider than it actually was. What happens next depends on choices that have nothing to do with technology. They have to do with habits, with the 2-second decision to turn off Bluetooth when you leave the house, with the 10-minute session in your router settings that you have been putting off for 3 years, with the 15-minute audit of app permissions that reveals access you never consciously granted, with the activation of 2-factor authentication on accounts you assumed were safe because you picked a password you thought was strong. The tools to protect yourself exist, the knowledge of what to do is available. The settings are inside the device in your hand or on the desk in front of you right now. What is not guaranteed, what has never been guaranteed, and what becomes more uncertain with every passing month as the threat landscape accelerates and the attackers grow more sophisticated and more automated is whether the window for acting before something goes wrong will remain open as long as you are assuming it will. The attacks are not waiting. The question is whether you are.